in the wide marble lobby of the Federal Defense Administration building. Sunlight poured through the towering windows like a spotlight on everything happening below. And as the morning rush of officers, analysts, and civilian contractors moved through security, one man stood out because he didn't move with the same urgency as the others. Nor did he look like someone who belonged in a place filled with crisp uniforms and fast-walking personnel. The old man stepped forward slowly, shoulders slightly bent from age, a weathered jacket hanging loosely over his frame, a folded document in his hand that he kept glancing at as if rehearsing what he came to say. No one stopped to greet him, though several younger staffers shot curious looks his way, mostly because it was unusual to see someone his age wandering into a high-security building without an escort. He approached the reception desk, where a sharply dressed receptionist named Blake tapped rapidly on her keyboard, barely glancing up as he stood there patiently, clearing his throat once to get her attention. When she finally looked up, her expression shifted from boredom to irritation, the kind of irritation that comes from assuming someone is lost or confused and about to waste her time. "Yes, sir. Do you need assistance?" she asked without warmth. And the old man answered softly that he needed to speak with the general, adding that it was urgent, more urgent than he could explain to her. Blake raised an eyebrow as if suppressing a laugh, because to her a man walking in from the street, asking for access to the highest-ranking official in the building sounded like something out of a prank video. "You can't just walk in here and ask for the general," she said sharply, "and you definitely can't see him without clearance." The old man nodded slowly, not offended but tired, as if he had expected resistance, but hoped maybe she would hear him out. "I have something he needs to see, something important," he said, trying to hand her the folded document, but she didn't touch it, instead leaning back in her chair and calling over security with a flick of her hand. "Sir, I'm going to need you to step aside," she said loudly enough for others to hear. The old man didn't argue. He simply lowered the paper and stepped back, but the security guard approaching him softened at the sight of his gentle, weathered face. Unlike the receptionist, the guard sensed something different, something real, though he still had a job to do. "Sir, do you know someone in the building?" he asked, and the old man replied again that he needed to see General Roberts, that the matter concerned an operation many years ago. The guard hesitated, but Blake cut in rudely, saying the old-timer probably wandered off from a veteran's center or was confused about where he was supposed to be. Her tone carried a sting of mockery, and for the first time the old man's expression shifted just slightly, not anger, but disappointment. "I'm not confused," he said quietly. "I came here because there's no time left." Blake laughed under her breath and told the guard to escort him out before he caused more disruption. But before the guard could take him away, a colonel walking by slowed down and stared at the old man with recognition, his eyes widening as he whispered, "Sir, is that really you?" Blake froze, unsure what was happening, because the colonel's tone was filled with respect, almost reverence. The colonel stepped closer, saluting sharply, and Blake's face went pale as she realized she had just mocked someone who, judging by the colonel's reaction, was no ordinary visitor. The colonel asked him whether the rumors were true, whether he had really returned after all these years, and the old man nodded, finally showing the colonel the folded document. The colonel's expression tightened as he read the first line. Then he looked toward the restricted hallway where the general's office was, saying he would personally escort the old man. As they walked away, Blake stood in stunned silence as several people stared at her, having witnessed the entire exchange. The old man didn't look back. He simply followed the colonel down the corridor, and as they stepped into the elevator, the colonel apologized for the receptionist's behavior. "She didn't know who you are, sir." The old man responded softly, "That's all right. Most people don't remember anymore." Meanwhile, the receptionist, shaken and embarrassed, watched the elevator doors close, having no idea that the man she dismissed as an old nobody was actually someone whose bravery had shaped the history of the very building she worked in. But this was only the beginning, because once the old man reached the upper floors and the general stepped out of his office in disbelief upon seeing him alive, the true reason for his visit began to unfold. And the truth he carried would turn the entire command upside down, exposing a secret buried for decades, a secret that was about to surface whether anyone liked it or not. The general stood frozen for several seconds, staring at the old man as if looking at a ghost, and after a moment he stepped forward and embraced him in a way that stunned the aides standing nearby, because General Roberts was known for his imposing discipline and emotional restraint, yet here he was holding the old man like a long-lost brother. They stepped into his office, the door closing behind them, and the general asked the question he never thought he would get to ask. "How are you alive?" The old man sat slowly, pulling out the document he had tried to show the receptionist earlier, and placed it on the general's desk with a slightly trembling hand. The general opened it carefully, and the more he read, the more his face drained of color, because what was inside contradicted everything the official files recorded of a final mission of Operation Sentinel. That mission decades ago had been classified as a catastrophic failure with multiple casualties, including the old man sitting before him, who had been declared killed in action. But the document revealed the truth. He hadn't died. He had gone underground intentionally, carrying out a secret continuation of the mission on foreign soil because Sentinel had been compromised from within. Someone high-ranking had leaked intel that almost wiped out the entire team, and the old man had spent years tracking the source rather than returning home, because he believed the mole was still embedded somewhere within the Defense Administration. The general's voice shook as he read aloud the coded segments, realizing that the traitor had never been caught, had never even been suspected, and that the old man had returned now because the same pattern of intel leaks had begun to surface again in current operations. He warned that another breach, bigger, deadlier, was imminent, and the only way to stop it was to expose the mole before the chain of information reached foreign adversaries waiting for the perfect moment to strike. As the general processed this, he looked at the old man's exhausted eyes, seeing decades of sacrifice, isolation, and relentless determination etched into every line on his face. He stood up and immediately called for a full internal lockdown of sensitive departments. But the old man raised a hand, stopping him. "Not yet," he said. "If you alert the wrong person, they'll know I'm back. They'll bury the truth before you ever find it." The room fell silent, heavy with the weight of betrayal that had lingered undetected for years.